See, church, the enemy has been studying you for quite a few generations. He's been watching. He watched Adam and Eve closely in the garden and figured out how to get them to fall. Then he tried it with every generation. And to some extent, he has succeeded. But then Jesus came. Okay, then with Jesus coming, we don't have to now wait for the enemy to do something and then for us to fix it. We don't have to wait for the enemy to cause someone to sin and then go build an offering, build an altar. That's what the law of Moses did, right? It made room for people to ask for forgiveness for the things that they did wrong. But Jesus came and he forgave you once and for all. He died in 1 James chapter 2. It says he is the propitiation of all sin. That means the sin that you had on you, it should have brought wrath, the wrath of God on you. But Jesus' death and resurrection ensured that he does not see that anymore. So you don't have to now struggle with something and then figure out how do we make this right anymore. But you've been given the upper hand. You've been given the upper hand. You've been given access. You've been given access into the holiest of holies. The holiest of holies. We've spoken about this many times in this church. You remember how the priests used to go into the holiest of holies? First and foremost, it took a lot of preparation before they even stepped into the holy place. And then when they reached the holy place, they would tie a rope around the leg. And then they would walk into the holiest of holies. And before they enter in the holiest of holies, they would take a lot of incense along with them. Because just in case the stench of their flesh would corrupt the atmosphere inside the holiest of holies, and he would die. He could die. So he would perfume himself and carry incense in his hand. And then walk into the holiest of holies with fear and trembling. And people would wait. If he walked out after a certain time, then he made it. But if he didn't, then they would have to drag his dead body out. That is why there was a rope. But you know what you and I have? We can be lying on our bed and just call out to him. There are times where you're not even asking and he is talking. We can't take this privilege for granted. We can't take this access for granted. The God of all creation. The God of all creation. See, he's the same God in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. So we cannot take his presence lightly. We shouldn't take his presence lightly. What kind of people would we be? What would history say about us? What would history say about us? That God spoke and they listened once in a while. God called unto them and they came to church every Sunday. See, for them it was a privilege. It was like a once in a lifetime access. So they worked very hard towards it. We don't have to work hard. So sometimes we don't realize the value of what we have. That is why we are like, it's okay. It's okay. Today, I forgot to pray. In the night, you're lying in your bed and you're like, tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. Tomorrow onwards, I'll have proper prayer time. Tomorrow onwards, I'll read my Bible. I was talking to the leaders last week. Do you realize that people in the Bible didn't have the Bible? They didn't have the Bible. Can you imagine if today we picked up the Bible and showed somebody from back then this, the words from his mouth, captured in pages, made available for you to just open, read, learn, and be blessed. When they wanted to hear from God, first and foremost, not everybody could. And the few that could, they had exemplary lives. For everybody else, they had to go to a priest. Or you had to be a priest. Well, even if you were a priest, you sometimes didn't hear God. Like Eli. He didn't know what it was to hear God. That is why he didn't give Samuel the instruction the first time Samuel came. After 3 times, it struck him that, okay, wait. If someone's calling him and it's not me and nobody else is there in the temple, could it be God? So what you and I have in our generation is more than just a privilege. It's more than just a privilege. I'm not going to ask you how many of your prayer lives are flourishing and growing. That's between God and you. You know more than anybody else how committed you are to reaching work on time and how committed you are to keeping your prayer time. If your commitment for one supersedes the other and the other happens to be your prayer time, then that is again between God and you. But this morning I just want to remind you that the access, the privileges we have today are privileges that people of the Bible have literally died for. There are thousands and millions of stories that we've not even heard. From the time that the last chapter of the Bible was recorded to this point in history, there are thousands and thousands upon thousands of stories of people that have been led by God, blessed by God, and we haven't heard all of it. We can either be part of the good side of history, or we can just be spectators like everybody else.
Hey, I hope you were blessed. Do share some love by leaving a comment and liking the video. And don't forget to subscribe to share this video with your beloved. God bless.